Alto Parks and Recreation Commission meeting on Tuesday, May 27th, 2025. I'd like to call the meeting to order and start with a roll call.
Okay. Jeff Greenfield,
Here.
Amanda Brown,
Here.
Ann Warner Cribbs,
Here.
Nellis Freeman.
Here, I have just cause. I have a just cause to attend this meeting remotely on the AB 2449. I have not attended a meeting remotely due to a just cause more than once this calendar year. I have attended no meetings remotely this calendar year. I must attend this meeting remotely because I must provide I have a sick relative. And I think that's it, right? So present.
Yeah, and then I'm so sorry, Chair Greenfield. The only other thing is, if you have anyone over the age of 18
Oh, I'm
in the
sorry.
room with
I have-
you, just let us know that too.
Yeah, no one over the 18 is in the room with me.
Thank you very much.
And you meant Chair Freeman.
Okay. Shawnee Kleinhaus,
Here.
Bing Wei,
Yeah, I'm attending remotely. First time in this calendar year, and according to AB 2429, I'm in the room alone in Shanghai for a business trip, leading a Palato delegation to visit the Sister City Summit.
okay,
Thank you.
and Yudi Deng. All 7 council members or commissioners are here and accounted for.
Okay, thank you. So now's the opportunity for public comments for those who want to address the commission on non-agenda items. If there are any members of the public who are in person and would like to address the commission in person, please fill out a speaker card and submit it to the clerk. If you're on Zoom, please raise your hand and the clerk will acknowledge your presence.
We do not have any requests to speak.
Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to our first agenda item, which is the approval of the minutes. Okay, are there any proposed changes to the agenda for Tuesday, May 25th? I'm sorry. Yeah, for May 25th. Okay,
Chair Freeman,
yes.
the minutes are, so there's 2 sets of minutes.
Oh,
One
yes.
for April 11th, which was the annual retreat, and another meeting minutes
For-
for April 22nd.
Okay, got that. Okay, yes, so approve the minutes of April 11th, 2025 and April 22nd, 2025 meetings for the Parks Recreation Commission meeting and also the retreat. Are there any comments, any changes, additions or deletions? I can't see the lights, so I don't know if there's. Okay,
There's no comments.
okay, I do have a change. I think it's for the April 22nd meeting. I think on line 108, where Commissioner Kleinhaus indicated, I think it says fund the pickleball to be a wonderful community. And it probably should be found, FOUND. I think that's between 108 and 109, I believe it is.
May we have a motion to approve the minutes, please?
And we should approve the minutes one at a time. But
Make
I'll
a
move.
motion to approve April 11th minutes.
Second.
Okay, did we note that change that I found?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Let's have a roll call. Approval.
Vice Chair Greenfield,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Cribbs,
Yes.
Chair Freeman,
Yes.
Commissioner Kleinhaus,
Yes.
Commissioner Way,
Yes.
and Commissioner Deng.
Yes.
Yeah, motion passes.
Okay, next on the agenda is the city official reports. Council Liaison.
Excuse me. We still have one more a set of minutes to approve.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. The April. Okay, go ahead. I get a motion to approve the minutes for April 22nd.
Yes, I'll make the motion to do so.
Second that.
Okay, for the motion to approve the minutes, Vice Chair Greenfield,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Abstain?
Commissioner Cribbs,
Yes.
Chair Freeman,
Yes.
Commissioner Kleinhaus,
Yes.
Commissioner Way,
Yes.
Commissioner Deng.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is the city official reports. Council Liaison report.
Chair Freeman, there is currently a council meeting that is taking place. So
Okay.
the typically council liaison report will not be taking place this meeting.
Okay, thank you. Okay, in that case, we'll go ahead and start with the department report.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Sarah Robustelli, Division Manager for Open Space, Parks, and Golf. While the slide deck's being pulled up, we're going to just go over some of the upcoming events that have been really successful and just recently taken place. I was a bit in awe with how much has happened since the last meeting. So if you can advance to the next slide, you'll see the Earth Day event. This event took place on April 27th from 1 to 4 at the Arts Center. It was a great fun day. Filled with a lot of attendees and focused on sustainable learning and, how we can help save the planet. So thanks for all those who attended. Next slide. May 3rd, we also had the May Fete Parade and Fair. This took place on University Avenue, and then the fair took place at Heritage Park. This year's theme was Grow Together, and it was the 101 year, which I'm a bit in awe about. There was booths featuring local community organizations, games and prizes, and food trucks for kids, which was all hosted by the Kiwanis Club at the Heritage Park for the fair portion. So thank you to our community partners. Next slide. Some of our upcoming events that we wanted to just take note and highlight. Although the Twilight concert series is a bit outside of the charter for PRC, it is happening in our parks. So we just wanted to note for awareness that these concerts will be starting June 21st is the first musical concert, and they will be taking place at Mitchell Park as well as Rinconada. In terms of the family movie nights, those will be getting underway here shortly. All of them are taking place at Mitchell Park. Seating starts at 7, and there's a large lineup of 6 different movies. It includes Inside Out 2, Despicable Me, and The Wild Robot, just to name a few. So more information on all our events is available on the city's website. And then last but not least, of course, is the 4th of July Summer Festival and Chili Cook-Off. If you are interested in being a judge, please let me know. We will also be sending out an email. If you happen to be in town and available, we'd love for the Parks and Rec commissioners to be involved. And, you know, this is more than just a chili cook-off too. There's live music, food trucks, games, activities, inflatables, and crafts. Next slide. So this is really exciting. The commission obviously was really involved with the Fred Eyerly Towerwell Park. We are coupling that with a Fire Station 1 open house. And we would like to, this is hot off the press, so you'll be receiving an email as well. But City Council is, this is going to be highlighted in their meeting today, and we're highlighting this in the Parks and Rec committee meeting, as well as the Palo Alto History Association, who is also PAHA involved with this. So we hope you can make it. And you know, if you would like more information, we'll be sending that in your inbox. Next update is Pepperly updates. So things are moving along. Again, this is a placeholder. We want to make sure that if you're not already signed up on the project webpage, that you go ahead and do so. But really going to, on the screen, just highlight that second community meeting that will be taking place Thursday, June 12th from 6 to 8. And at this meeting, there's going to be 3 concept plans that will be shared out of the first community meeting. So we hope you can make it.
May I have one?
Yeah, of course.
Unless you were going to
No.
talk about the council meeting.
No.
Hi, Kristen O'Kane, Director of Community Services. I wanted to add to that on June 9th, council meeting will be presenting the results of the community poll that was done for Cubberley. So just wanted to share that if you're all interested in those results. Thank you.
Great. Okay, next slide. So a few just follow-ups. One from Commissioner Kleinhaus had a question from our last meeting. A valley oak was planted after losing a tree at Ramos Park. So that's the picture on the left-hand side of your screen. And then as we were doing updates to the Heritage Park Site Amenities CIP, which is completing this year, park staff's been working with urban forestry on the replacement of the root tree structure, and it's designed to protect the root zone of the existing tree, allowing the surrounding site and more functionality to the space. So that was just completed last week. And then next slide. So Mitchell Park restrooms just received a refresh. We highlighted some other facilities last meeting, and Mitchell Park, new exterior paint, new interior paint, epoxy floors, and some reconditioning. I do also want to just note the Friends of Palo Alto Parks have installed also porta potties that are near the pickleball and magical bridge as they've expressed a need for the restroom, which is an upcoming CIP and in the current plan. And so while we work through the design with our Public Works engineering team and come up with a solution for adding another set of bathrooms here, they have generously offered to pay for those portable restrooms. Next slide. Another project that's underway is Greer Park resurfacing. This is our basketball court. This project scope includes replacing all of the basketball hoops, expanding the smaller court into a full-size court, and doing resurfacing. Demo is currently underway, and we're anticipating reopening at the end of June. Next slide. Bullware. So the last time we were here, it was partially open. So fully opened, the playgrounds are very well utilized. And so the playground areas was the last to open. And so now the park there's some hydro seeding that is currently still growing in. But other than that, the park is fully functional and open to the public. And then I believe we have one more slide. Coverly Field restrooms, very exciting news. They are completed, and we are planning to open next Monday, June 2nd. The project also just included a new sewer pump station, repaving of the bike path from the adjacent restroom all the way to Nelson Drive. So we're excited that all these projects are completed. That concludes the departmental report.
Thank you. Let's see, I'll open it up to the commissioners. If you have any questions or as it relates to the department reports.
Yes, thank you, Chair. A couple quick questions. The Coverly restrooms, it looks like there's 4 units.
That's correct.
That's a pleasant surprise.
Hmm.
I thought it was going to be, I never knew that it was going to be more than 2, so that's great.
Okay.
I think the capacity will be utilized. Thank you. And the time of the Fred Arley Tarwell Park?
Oh, for the opening, it starts at 4 p.m. 4 p.m. The fire station open house is just 1 block away, so we're coupling that right after. I think we're anticipating maybe 4:30, like a short, because we'll have refreshments and the open house kind of at the open house.
Thank you.
Okay, Jeff, Commissioner Greenfield, you want to manage the lights from other commissioners for me, please?
Commissioner Cribbs.
Thank you very much. And great news about all the restrooms. So thank you very much for all of that work. Is there a time or a timeline for the community meetings for the Mitchell Park restroom location?
Currently, the short answer is no, not yet. But I will be able to share that we did meet with Public Works engineering staff. This is they are beginning, especially now that Coverly is completed. This is the next project that team will be working on, and we'll make sure to update this group.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Just to follow up on the Coverly restroom, or I'm sorry, on the Mitchell Park restroom schedule, do we have a timeline for when the restrooms will be delivered and available?
Um,
Um,
so I think that once we have a better understanding of next steps, we'll make sure to bring this group
okay.
updated with the process. But yeah, for delivery and we just know fabrication of the building takes some time. So really it's just dependent on the community meetings.
Sure.
And going from
Maybe I phrased the question wrong, improperly. So the restroom units, the buildings are not on order yet.
No,
Okay.
they are not.
Okay. And so realistically, just to set expectations, we're probably a year out or so.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, I'll chime in.
I guess.
No, go ahead. Yes.
There was a high tide and surf advisory for today in the news. Do you know if there was any impact in the Baylands?
I haven't heard from, I've heard from rangers on duty today, but nothing regarding the high tide. And I was actually out at the interpretive center this morning and no overtopping, nothing from what we've seen in the past, nothing like that. So.
Do we have any updates on the Eleanor Party Park restroom after the survey result?
Yeah, so after Mitchell Park restroom, that will take place and start. I think the intent is to also then start the work for Eleanor Party Park.
They will start like one by one or together?
One by one.
Metro pickleball first, then Eleanor Party.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, similar question, Sarah. A great presentation. I missed all the great celebrations, especially the May Parade, but intending to attend the chili cook-off. And I'll miss the June meeting too, but intending to attending September one. Yeah, similar question is what's the timeline? And the refresh looks good for Mitchell Park, as you see the slides here. Do we have a specific timeline in terms of finish that and versus adding more? I remember last time we have a project plan for the restrooms for these two particular ones. Is there a specific timeline? When do we finish the refresh? When do we start the other one, as Commissioner Dunn just mentioned?
I think, thank you for that question, Commissioner Wei. We will be conducting with the Public Works Engineering team the community outreach. Based on the community outreach and the results of the community outreach, that will then dictate and we'll have a better idea in terms of timeline. And we'll make sure to update the commission with those updates.
Thank you.
So just to clarify, on Eleanor Party, there is not a green light at this point to proceed with the restrooms. We're still reviewing.
So the next step in the process is that if it's adopted in the fiscal year 26 budget, that's the next step in the process. If it does get adopted, then the next step is doing community outreach, which is a standard part of the CIP process, which we conduct community meetings as part of the design of the project.
So could you clarify? So if the budget includes a CIP for the restroom at Pardee Park, does that mean that we're proceeding with the restroom, or it's subject to the community outreach?
I think that's a good question. As if it gets approved within the budget, we are planning to move forward with with the restroom.
Thank you for the clarification.
So about the restrooms, I hope that they're not going to be displacing some trees in either park where they come in. So people don't always realize what the cost is of having something close. But sometimes we might lose some trees or vegetation. So I would really caution from doing that. I have a question about the Foothills and Arrastradero fire plan. Is stuff involved in the fire plans for the parks, and is it coming to this commission?
Good question, Commissioner Kleinhaus. The Foothills Fire Plan was reviewed by staff internally. I did ask that question in regards to plans coming to the PRC. The scope is Foothills, not just the preserve, but it's the whole area. And the project manager mentioned to me that they were not planning to come. They thought it was a bit outside of the PRC's purview. Invited to comments. You were sent an email for comments, but historically, since the last update, they didn't go to PRC and weren't planning to.
Well, I think it should come to PRC. Yes, the plan is more include some of the roads around it, but most of it is in Foothills and Arrastradero. It's really looking east of 280, I think, even. And a lot of it is being implemented and being surprised to a lot of people when they see it suddenly, the trees are disappearing. And it is impacting the parks. I don't understand why they would think that it's not a park issue. Go ahead.
We can take that back and just want to point out this isn't an item on the agenda. So if we can discuss that with the appropriate people and see what the next step might be.
Okay, are there any other questions as relates to the department feedback? I just want to say it was great to hear that the 101st year May Feet Parade went well. I was out of town, so I couldn't attend. Usually I do. And as it relates to the July 4th cook-off, looking forward to that. Do want to ask, do we have a lot more entrants than we had last year? And if so, what word are we putting out to? I know we had an increase last year from the previous year. How's this year looking?
Last year, there were 12 teams that had signed up. 11 showed up on the event day. Currently, there's 10 teams signed up. And we're still taking signups, I believe, as of Friday. When speaking with the event coordinator, he mentioned possibly extending, but no promises there.
What type of word, I guess, do we get out to because it seems like people come from all over the different cities.
You're right. There's 4 returning teams, and there's 6 new teams. So we'll see. There also is a meeting that takes place with staff to kind of outline, next steps and procedures. So I think it's typical. We're putting it out in all the normal avenues that we have been successful with in the past. And it's nice to hear that there's 4 returning and 6 new.
Yeah, good. Yeah, it was a great event, and I encourage all the commissioners to look forward to attending that. If not anything, get to taste some really good chili and get a free apron to add to your collection.
I agree totally.
Yeah, I have one other question. On the Mitchell Park, you indicated that the Friends of Palo Alto, I guess, were Friends Group were have paid for the portable party that are in the parties that are in the park they're doing the funding, but what about the maintenance of those porta potties? Is that by the city or that handled
They're
by the vendor?
correct. They're handled by a vendor through payment through the Friends of the Park.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Okay, if there's no other questions, we'll go ahead and move on to item 4 on the agenda, which is the Baylands Golf Links update.
I believe there that a hand raised? I'm not sure.
From
Is on the screen? I just want to make sure. Is that?
Yes. Yes, there is a hand raised for public comment. Maybe
Okay.
we missed that for comments not on the agenda. I'm not.
The
No,
hand was raised after public comments. Just, yeah, so.
yeah, we did open it for public comments, so
Okay.
which are now closed.
Okay.
No, I don't know. Do you take the public comments? I mean, at this point, no. It was raised after the fact is.
So Director O'Kane suggests that we find out if this is a request to speak on a topic that's not on the agenda. And how do we do that?
So Lynn, we've given you permission to unmute your microphone. Would you please let us know what you would like to give public comment about? Is it an item not on the agenda?
I'm Lynn Chiapella, and no, it is not. I did have an item not on the agenda, but I got there at 7:02 and you'd already bypassed it. So the comment I have were some questions on the golf course.
Okay, great. Thank you. We will come back to public comment on that agenda item for you.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, let's go ahead and go with item 4, Baylands Golf Link update.
Good evening, Chair Freeman and members of the commission. Thank you for this opportunity to present to you on the city's golf course, Baylands Golf Links. I am Lam Do with Open Space Parks and Golf. This evening, co-presenting with me are Sarah Robustelli, our division manager in Open Space Parks and Golf, as well as Matt Malloy. Matt is the senior vice president of Troon and OB Sports, our contracted golf operator. Tonight's presentation is different from prior years, which focused on financial performance. With feedback from the commission, we are including operations and ask our contracted operator to co-present as well. We also have this evening Kevin Springer, who is the on-site general manager at Baylands Golf Links, here to support and answer questions, as well as we've also have George Moxie of the First Tee Silicon Valley, also here to support and answer questions on the First Tee as well. So thank you for all. Next slide. For this presentation, we will cover a little bit of background and how our course stands out as a link style course and one irrigated with mostly recycled and reclaimed water. Then we will look at performance to be followed by wetland mitigation and monitoring. Then we'll discuss the relationship with the first tee of Silicon Valley, along with a consideration for constructing a double-deck driving range. Our course operator, OB Sports, will then present course operations, and then we'll conclude with a question and answer session. In 2016, the Palo Alto Municipal Golf Course closed for 2 years for a course redesign and reconfiguration. Construction took 2 years, and in 2018, the course reopened and as the Baylands Golf Links. So we no longer operate it as the Palo Alto Municipal Golf Course. When the course reopened, it was a link style course, which allows for course contours, rolling elevation, integration with wetlands, and a more challenging course play. This was in quite a contrast to the prior course, which was a flat course and was basically up and down. The primary course natural turf is paspalum, which is a salt-tolerant grass. This allows for irrigation with recycled and reclaimed water, and also better growth in a high salinity soil, of which our location is the Baylands. So the link style design and the paspalum grass were specifically designed and chosen because of the location that we were at, and to also fit in with the Baylands setting and wetlands as well. Next slide. Okay. The golf course is owned by the city of Palo Alto and operated by OB Sports under a course management contract. OB Sports is a full-service golf management company. They oversee all aspects of golf operations for us, ranging from course maintenance, course play. They manage the course practice facilities, which are driving range, includes our driving range and practice putting greens as well. They handle merchandise sales on behalf of the city, and they also offer full food and beverage service as well. Having a single course operator has resulted in better customer service and more smooth operations. The intent has always been to be seamless to a golfer, where one provider is able to offer all services. Next slide, please. Now for a look at financial performance and course play. This table here reflects each full fiscal year since the course became Baylands Golf Links. You'll notice here in the first 2 fiscal years, 2019, 2020, the golf course had financial losses of 0.3 million and 0.7 million respectively. In that first year, fiscal year 19, the the loss is associated with having 2 debt service payments. In 2019, there was 1 final year payoff of a prior debt, and the course also incurred new debt, which is associated with the reconstruction. So in that fiscal year, there were 2 debt services being paid, which resulted in the operating loss. In fiscal year 2020, the course closed upon the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. This closure and also limited play upon reopening resulted in a financial loss as well. However, since then, 2021, 2022, and 2023, the golf course has been operating in the positive with an annual contribution of over $1 million each fiscal year towards the city's general fund. There was a dip in 2024 down to 0.5 million. However, this is associated with a water meter and billing error, which currently community services staff and utility staff is working on to correct. We anticipate that a correction will be reflected in fiscal year 2025's reconciliation. And now with our next slide, we'll move on to wetland mitigation and monitoring, and my colleague here, Sarah, will be presenting.
All right, so Lam touched on the redesign that was done. So prior to, since the project completion, city staff has continued to coordinate with the State Water Board to ensure compliance with mitigation requirements and to advance the next steps towards a long-term success of the mitigation areas. So let's see, the first kind of point is in August of 2024, the city submitted a current conditions report. And this report determined the current coverage of the wetland areas and also made recommendations on next steps towards meeting those requirements. And then secondly, in December of 2024, the city notified the State Water Board of our intent to conduct a jurisdictional wetland delineation. The purpose of the delineation is to verify the extent of the wetland acreage coverage. And the delineation is currently underway. It started in February and is slated to be completed in July of this year. And this will inform if any hydrological modifications are necessary to make the wetland successful. And will also just outline how many acreage of the wetlands are currently existing. So in parallel with these efforts, if we go to the next slide, staff has been coordinating with the golf course operator to maintain for maintenance, and we've been implementing additional protective measures in and around the mitigation areas. So these include installing more split rail fencing, improving signage, additional educational materials, and also implementing a local rule which has been adopted and allows for stroke relief in a case where a golf ball lands in a wetland habitat. This is discouraging entry into the sensitive habitat areas and supporting that habitat protection. So the image on your right-hand side is all those blue kind of markers are where additional split rail fencing has been installed. And if you go to the next page, we'll also kind of just show you some examples of that split rail fencing that has taken place, in addition to the signage.
Now we'll move on to the first.
Oh, your mic.
And now we'll move on to the first T in the second deck study. Since 2009, the city has either co-sponsored or partnered with the First Tee Silicon Valley or its predecessors. This relationship has provided the First Tee with golf facility access to carry out its mission of teaching youth life skills through learning the game of golf. Youth development in particular is in line with an objective of the Community Services Department as well. The city and the First Tee currently have a short-term agreement in place for the First Tee to have a teaching facility access. This provides the First Tee with seasonal practice putting green access. This provides them with access to the driving range each time they're on site. We also have a portion of the youth practice area for them to use. And when they're players, or depending on which level they're teaching, advanced, they also have on-course access. This is a program that they work with us on a regular basis. They teach 4 seasons a year for 8-week sessions, primarily after school hours in the late afternoon. Their program involves youth between the second grade through high school. And their reach is for boys and girls of all ages, and they also have an extensive program to provide scholarships when needed to the participants. Currently, the city and the First Tee are in discussions towards a long-term partnership. Both parties are reviewing a draft term sheet, which is intended to lead to development of the long-term partnership. This partnership would be for expansion of First Tee programming, also additional access times and locations, and this also facilitates youth development as well. Next slide, please. Staff is currently re-engaging with the National Golf Foundation on a second deck driving range study. This is an evaluation of the potential to construct a double deck driving range. We're looking at financial feasibility, but we're also looking at leveraging technology enhancements. This is to attract more golf patrons to the practice facility. we have a draft report that's being updated with current golf market analysis. And then we're also going to be updating the utilization models and financial projections as well. Yes, and thank you, sir. And this study will also be coming back to the commission as well. Okay. And then next, we'll be moving on to hand off to our operator. This is Matt Malloy, VP with Senior VP with Operations at Troon and OB Sports. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you. You can go to the next slide. So this is just an outline of what we're presenting today. It a little bit overlaps with what's already been presented. So we can go to the next slide. So performance, same numbers as Lon presented earlier, but one of the big metrics that we look at as in the golf industry is dollars, per paid round. And so as we can see, we've had a nice trajectory up until 24. 24, we really saw a little shift on when people play. So people started playing more in the afternoon to see a lesser rate, but we've seen that come back this year. So we're projecting just over $90 per round, partly because of our dynamic pricing, which I'll talk about a little bit later, and also our loyalty program, which is called our Links card for the local golfer. The next slide. So start with course maintenance. Lom talked about Seaside Paspalum. Paspalum is a very salt tolerant grass, able to withstand utilizing reclaimed water. And then we have a separate loop for the greens. Greens are bent grass, and that uses potable water. But you're talking 2 acres versus 87 acres. It does require a high level of aerification on the fairways and tees, because fairways, tees, and roughs, there's really not rough on a links course, is not rough out there. So for those golfers in the room, you'll notice that everything's cut at one height throughout the golf course. But it does ask for a top dressing program that we hope to get started this year. We got all new equipment last year, all new cutting units, and all new high frequency equipment was replaced last year. And then we started our Audubon certification last year. We have our first step completed. So we have our environmental planning certificate, and then we have a couple of case studies ongoing per the certification. So it's a long process, but it's a good process to get, and it's certainly once certified, it's certainly a great thing to have for a golf course. And then in native areas, talked a little bit about that, the environmentally sensitive areas. As you saw those pictures, you can see in this picture, the native areas are flourishing out there very well this year due to some maintenance practices we've done over the last couple of years. We mow them down completely each fall, and we'll continue that practice until we really get rid of all of the noxious and invasive weeds out of there. But fencing and signage, as was talked about, player communication, we ask people to stay out of there. People chase their golf ball everywhere. For those people who know golf, they just can't help themselves. So we really work with them on the local rule and stroke relief. So next slide. And then golf operations, as Lom talked about, Kevin Spranger behind us. He's been the general manager for a couple of years, been with Baylands for just shy of 3 years now. So we're real proud of the job he's doing. Dynamic pricing we all know dynamic pricing. If you stay in hotels or fly or rent a car, it's all dependent on occupancy. And so it's taken the golf industry a very long time to get to this point, but we're finally here where we're able to drive revenue based on occupancy, based on time of day of week. And certainly those day parts, we look at day parts by the hour. So, and the scale rates are basically the base rates. So we have different rates that we dynamically price off of, and those are weekday, weekend, twilight, and weekend, twilight as well. On the experience, we look to have a high-end daily fee service level. So we have a high level of staff that are greeting people when they come into onto the property, throughout the property, on the golf course, from beverage cart service and more player assistance on the course. So to help pace the play, to help people find their golf ball, lost clubs. You'll never believe me with some of the stuff people lose out there. So that's certainly, but the service is a big piece. So it's something that we as a company pride ourselves on, and something we're continuing to drive home to the staff here. Kevin and his team are doing a great job. Ties into our Secret Shopper program. So we have it's quarterly. A Secret Shopper comes out and does a full, I think it's a 90-point evaluation from the parking lot, cleanliness, all the way to food and beverage, to if there's tees on the, too many broken tees on the tee decks and all there's too many points in there to go through, but it's a very, very comprehensive Secret Shopper program. It gives us the data to be able to drive those service standards where we're missing. Google Tracker, we have a relationship management tool called Review Tracker. So all of the social media reviews go into one funnel that we're able to manage those and stay ahead of those from people who are reviewing the golf course online. And then the dormant grass. So paspalum is a cool season grass. So it goes dormant, and that's something that we, as the golf course, golfers in the area they're not accustomed to turf going dormant, because most of the grass up here is rye and bluegrass mix, and that's green all year. So it's something that we're certainly we have to take into account, and we'll look to maybe scale rates from a seasonality perspective in the coming years as well. Next slide is our golfer demographics. So this is something that we take very careful measures to get this data from every golfer as they play every day. So as you see through fiscal 24, 39% from Palo Alto City. The next highest is Santa Clara, and forgive me, I'm from Maricopa County, which we all can talk long and hard about that, in Arizona, but I'm not really. I think Santa Clara is very close, and San Mateo is as well, are the two closest counties. So, but we track that, and it's important to understand where our golfers are coming from. Go next slide. Yeah, and it does tie into our marketing program. I mentioned our links card program, which is our loyalty program, where you buy into that program for a fee, and then you get discounted rates. You do have a shorter window to book tee time, so it is an additional layer of yield management on top of what we do for the public. But we have 1,400 participants. It makes up almost 40% of our rounds, and really allows us to drive rounds in the off seasons, in slower times, off-peak times during the week. Twin Rewards is our program through that all the golfers within Links Card earn points. They can go to any of our other courses that we manage throughout the country and the world, for that matter. We have 87 international clubs, so they can use those points, earn them at Baylands, redeem them at Baylands, or they can go. We hope they redeem them at Baylands than other courses. And then True Access is a membership program that we drive additional rounds to the clubs, and we just launched a tee time alert. So if you look for a tee time that's not available, you can go into a tee time alert. So when that tee time becomes available, or any tee time within that time frame becomes available, you'll get a notification. Just launched a new app with a new tee time system. So that's been very, very well received. And then we do a lot of email marketing, Facebook, Instagram marketing as well. Next slide. And then just the golfer development programs is such a big thing. My wife's in sales, so she calls it the sales cycle. But this is a really long sales cycle. But we're investing in the kids, as every golf course should, because when people learn to play at a golf course, they hold that golf course in high esteem, and they'll always remember that, and they'll always have a tendency to play those golf courses where they learn to play. So we have a great program. We obviously, in conjunction with what George does at the First Tee, have been a great partner since we opened in 2018, since the golf course opened. We augment that with our own junior camps. We host Pally and Gun for their high school girls and boys teams. We participate in Youth on Course, just over 1,800 rounds last year. And then individual golf instruction, and then we did over 4,000 junior rounds in 2024. So a big piece of that. So, and that was it.
With that, we conclude our presentation and we want to open this up for questions and answers.
Okay, thank you for a very in-depth and informative presentation. I'd like to open it up to public comments. I think we have one public comment.
We actually have 2 public comments.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
I had a couple of questions after reading the report.
I apologize, Lynn, if you could just give us one moment, we're going to pull up a timer for you. All right, our first speaker is Lynn C. Lynn, whenever you are ready, you may unmute and start your public comments.
I was concerned when I saw the drop in revenue, and I didn't quite understand the explanation that it's basically not a drop to $500,000 from over $1 million of revenue. So I didn't understand if that's is an error or if that's actual. So I'm not sure what the net will be for the year. And I was curious whether it looks like the sales inside of clothes or whatever does generate money for the city. I don't know how the restaurant works, so I had a question on whether we rent that space or the city rents that space. How does that work? So I had a hard time figuring out what is the real net for the year with everything, all the expenses, and then all the revenue. The second part is, who is paying? I think you're hiring a consultant again. I gleaned something from the report. And does that come out of the City of Palo Alto general fund, or does that come out of the golfing revenue or the golfing expenses for the golf course? And the third question was, when you planted and planned this in 2016 with the match rule taking away I don't remember, had a different category of golf, who was responsible for that landscaping and the design? Because when I walked out there, I could clearly see people were rather confused and rummaging around and taking shortcuts. I came before your commission, particularly on one of the places where walkers had to walk a long way around or cut through the, I guess, designated natural area. And I wondered if that had been remedied. And then you brought up some things that weren't in the report, and I guess I don't really know how it all fits together, so I can't really ask a question on that. And do the rounds now exceed what you had before when it was categorized? The golf course prior to 2016 was classified in a different way because it had longer, I guess the par was 4, but it had longer fairways, etc. And I didn't see anything about the comparison of how it's done overall from the beginning to from prior to the renewal and now. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Karen P.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, my name is Karen Porter. I'd like to start out by saying that although I haven't played in quite a few years, I'm a fan of the golf course. The renovations look really nice and it's an important recreational asset for the city. My concern is that the course is located immediately adjacent to the Palo Alto Airport with about half of one side less than 200 feet away from the runway. The airport has an average of about 160,000 operations annually, which works out to an average of about 440 takeoffs and landings per day. Something this commission may or may not be aware of is that the vast majority of aircraft using Palo Alto Airport run on leaded fuel. This means there is a significant amount of lead emissions that drift onto the golf course and the people using it. As I hope everyone knows, lead emissions are harmful to adults and particularly kids who can suffer adverse effects on their intellect, concentration, and academic achievement, which the Environmental Protection Agency recently reiterated. A few years ago, an environmental justice organization named Palo Alto Airport the 17th worst airport in the country for lead emissions. Unfortunately, the city has not conducted its own emissions testing, which is a serious concern. And although the city has taken steps to encourage the use of unleaded fuel, it has not gone well. According to the airport, no unleaded fuel has been sold this year. So the point of my comment is that there should be abundant and clear warnings on site at the golf course pertaining to the risks of lead emissions from the airport. The California Department of Public Health in 2022 released a handout on steps that those who live, work, or visit near airports should take to protect themselves from lead emissions, which includes wet wiping surfaces and removing shoes before entering homes. This notice should be distributed to everyone who uses the golf course. And in addition, if there aren't already, signs about the risk of lead emissions from the airport should be erected in prominent locations around the golf course. So my question is, will the commission encourage the city to do this? And I really hope so for the protection of public health. Thanks so much.
That concludes public comment on agenda item 4.
Okay, and thank you to the speakers for your comments. Just remember that the public comments are a one-way form. Some of the comments that you made may be answered during some of the commissioners' open conversations here. I'll now pass it on to the commissioners who might or have clarifying questions for I think with a very informative discussion by all. So Commissioner Greenfield, if you can share the lights, that would be great.
Sure. Is anyone who would like to speak first? Perhaps the golf liaison on the commission? Is that you, Nellis?
Nellis.
That would be me, yes. I'll kind of start it off by very good presentation. It's so glad to see that we're actually making a lot of progress with both the OB course operations and as well as the first tee. I know you had mentioned in your presentation and the handout that there's there has been a short-term agreement with First Tee. Maybe you can give us a little bit more detail about the what you talked about as far as the long-term partnership, and when do you expect that agreement will be signed, and also whether or not there's any do you see any issues on the other side that might keep that from happening here in the next few months or so?
If I could answer your latter portion of the question, and then I've asked George to speak to the discussions of the long-term agreement.
Okay.
Our short-term agreement runs through February 2026. Staff's and also the First Tee's intent is to have the long-term partnership agreement worked out prior to then, and so we are. That's what we've targeted, is to upon expression of the short-term agreement, to have the long-term partnership in place. And George, if you could speak to the intent of the long-term partnership as well.
So, Commissioner, ideally the long-term agreement would be tied to the development of the youth area between Embarcadero Road and the driving range. So we've been having some discussions about that. So it's basically adding on to the current use, but almost exclusively in that youth area.
Okay. And Ms. Master, on the First Tee, the applaud your organization for what you're doing with youth golf. Have you seen I guess the last few years an increase in youth really taking advantage of golf, and how does Palo Alto, I guess, side with like what's happening with some of the other communities? Are we ahead or below, or sort of on track where we've been in the past?
Sure. It's pretty much a steady state because we have a very fixed capacity for what we can do. And that's the short-term agreement. It's basically documenting what we've been doing for probably something like 8 years, I'd say, the amount of use in the last 8 years or 10 years. But there's been no increase in the capacity, but we basically pretty much fill the classes every season.
Okay. So you still, okay, go ahead.
No, and
Sorry.
then I'm sorry to interrupt. What we're seeing in the rest of Silicon Valley is about a 10% growth every year in demand.
Okay. So it sounds like you're I know you continue to move forward with this and moving forward on, not only on the short term, but also on the long-term agreement. Seems like, and we applaud you for your tenacity on that, and so hopefully we're moving in the right direction, and you're very happy with where things are going at this moment, hopefully.
And Chair, if I myself and also our golf item may speak to this as well. The First Tee is one of our avenues of outreach to youth, and perhaps outreach is not the right term, but our introduction and inclusion of youth in golf. So in addition to the First Tee, we also have the Youth on Course program, which as our operator mentioned earlier, we had 18 over 100 players last year, which makes up, if I do my math right, roughly 3% of our rounds. And then I'll let Matt speak to other youth programs as well.
Yeah, Commissioner, I can tell you that every time I'm here, it's literally like a carnival out there on the golf course, on the practice facility, meaning that it's brimming with adults and juniors and players every afternoon. It's something I don't see at many of the other facilities that I manage throughout the country. So I think we should all be proud of what's going on out there from a junior perspective, from an adult program perspective. But certainly the junior program is very robust.
Okay. And again, before I end here, I just want to applaud you guys on the work you're doing on this, and just keep up the good work as we're going forward. It's not like the program's making money as well. I know we had a few hiccups during the COVID years. I do have a question, though. I think it was in 2023. I noted that the expenses were around 3.8 million, and even though that was a profitable year, and then the next year I think it was significantly higher. Do you have What do you think caused that? Is there a reason for that?
Sure. The higher expense that you're seeing reflected into fiscal 2024 is related to the potable water usage costs. This is where we referred to earlier as a billing reconciliation is necessary. That does not reflect what our actual usage was. There is a issue with the billing and how much we were billed, which increased our overall expenditures and also decreased resulted in a lower profit margin from operations. And so we, community service staff, along with utility staff, together are working to rectify that.
Okay, but there was a $3.8 million one in 2023 that was an expense. That was a lot lower than the other years. Do you know what that dip was?
I'll need to look into that a little bit further and get back to the commission on that one. I don't know
Okay.
offhand the specific about it. I see what you're referring to.
Okay, thank you. I'll pass it on to other commissioners who have questions.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to stay on the first T conversation if we could. Feels like we've been talking about this for a long time at the commission, and now there's a short-term agreement, 2026, and then a long-term agreement coming. What can be done to facilitate this and help it to move along faster? I think, as I've said before, the opportunity that we have with the First Tee nationally is terrific. It's a wonderful organization. It does some great things. And I think we should be really excited about having it come here to Palo Alto. So is there anything that can be done to make this go faster? I mean, what are the things that are holding it up?
We recognize that this has been slower than what we anticipated. However, going forward, I think it's both the First Tee and staff are on the same page at this point. I think the term sheet that we are reviewing right now, we are both quite close, I think, to what we want to establish as our terms, and then that would then speed up the process.
Well, that's really good to hear. I'm just wondering if there are any youth who are not able to participate because we don't have these agreements in place. Are we still able to serve everybody that wants to be served?
No, we definitely have waiting lists every season. And it depends on the season, what, exactly how large those are. And it's for specific classes. So, so full capacity would be what? 512 registrations for the year. And I think the report showed 460 or something like that. But any given class could definitely have a waiting list. From the 16 that are in the class, it could be as large as 10 or 15 kids that are on the waiting list. So it's hard to judge that. It's not like we have 512 registrations and 100 kids waiting to get in. It's not like that. It's specific classes.
Okay, so can we move off the First Tee now and talk a little bit about the other things that the golf course is doing for the community in terms of the golf clubs, the women's club and the men's club and the senior men's club and all of that? I feel like that's a really important function of the golf course, and Palo Alto's had a really long tradition of having really strong clubs, and I'm sure that they're continuing, but I think we'd like to know a little bit more about what's going on right now at the club and how we're serving the community as well.
Sure. Let me start, and then I'll ask either Matt or Kevin, who's the general manager at the course, to answer the specifics. In prior years, we did report on the clubs that at each of the individual clubs you just mentioned. I think we had a lot of information this year, so we could not include all the information. So it's not that we are no longer working with the clubs. We, on a regular basis, still work with the clubs. And we have Kevin Springer here as well.
I'll turn it over to Kevin.
Our men's club has a pretty significant waiting list. We have almost 500 members, and each week when they play on Saturdays, we are not able to really get them all out. It's a nice problem to have. The rates they are discounted. So, I mean, there's a benefit to joining for sure. And then the ladies play, we have a 9-hole ladies group and an 18-hole ladies group. I've noticed since we've added some instructors to our staff, and we've opened up clinics for everyone, but we've had a lot of ladies join these clinics, and it's really increased the 9-hole ladies. It's almost 50% compared to when I started almost 3 years ago. And then some of the ladies have graduated from the 9-hole club to the 18-hole club. Some of them are plenty good enough to play in the 18-hole club, but they just like to play their 9 holes, and it's a little more of a social thing. And Matt could speak to a little bit more on a national level, but I feel like our ladies clubs are strong. I feel like all of our clubs are strong, and I feel like a lot of that has to do with the value that they get. And to toot our horn, I think that the golf course is it's a great piece of property, and it's a great place to play, and it's a great practice facility, and I think it's a combination of a lot of things why we've been able to increase the demand for our clubs.
Thank you.
I'll add that the ladies, women are the largest growth segment of golf coming out of COVID. And there's like not even a close second. The other piece of the growth, I'll tell you, I believe at Baylands is also the playability of the golf course. So there's not massive forced carries off the tees. So it's a lot friendlier golf course to play. You're not hitting over ravines or water or and those types of situations for ladies, which is very helpful for entry into the game as you're learning how to play it. So it's a big plus for Baylands. People like to play it, and for other people that aren't as good, they like to play it.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, compliments to the whole team around the golf course with the redesign and all the work that's been done and what you're doing. So really appreciate it. It's a great resource for the community. And one last question. There's been some discussion about East Palo Alto and resident fees being extended to East Palo Alto. Has that happened yet, or is that part of this year's budget discussion?
Thank you, Commissioner, for the question. It is part of the upcoming fiscal year 26 operating budget.
I just wanted to know where it was.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Just great presentation. Thanks for the information. More curious, regionally in this area, we've seen a lot more, not necessarily in Palo Alto, but in Santa Clara County and San Mateo County, two Topgolfs, golf simulator rooms. And what I've heard talking to industry professionals is that it's not actually taking away market share, but it's just getting more people interested in the sport, and it's actually driving more people to golf courses. Could you speak a little bit about that, if you've seen that as a trend?
Topgolf's an interesting animal right now because it's an entertainment product, and it's truly entertainment and food and beverage. I took my son and my family there last year, and it was an expensive day. Expensive 2 hours, whatever it was. It is bringing people to golf. The crossover is negligible though. The core, what we call core golfer in the industry, doesn't go to Topgolf other than to entertain themselves or with friends and family. There is a small percentage of crossover. I will tell you there's more Topgolfs for sale right now than not for sale in our country, and then Callaway, who used to own Topgolf, has divested from them. So Topgolf as a company is for sale. I'm not trying to paint a bleak picture of Topgolf, but there's certainly there's no new construction of Topgolf throughout the country, so it remains to be seen. But it is certainly off-course growth in golf has exploded since COVID, and we as an industry we love it. From the indoor simulators to Top Tracer, which is an basically Topgolf at a golf course, that technology. So that's part of the transition away from Topgolf, because you can get that same product at a golf course through Top Tracer without the massive expense. So, yeah.
That's helpful. I just was curious with having these conversations about youth golfers, just getting people into the sport and curious. So thank you.
Yeah, for junior golfer, it's junior programs, it's first tee programs, it's course specific junior programs, it's individual instruction, it's high school golf, it's all those programs. Yeah.
Commissioner Glenhouse.
Okay. Thank you for the presentation. You all put a lot of effort into this and pretty comprehensive, so thank you for that. I'll just ask a few questions for the public. The questions that came from Lynn, who pays the consultants in the mitigation efforts, that come out of the golf course fund or the general fund for the city? I just think it would be good to clarify.
The expenditures for consultants are paid out of one and the same, the golf course fund and the general fund. The reason is because the golf course operating budget falls under the city's general fund. This golf course is not a standalone fund. We receive funding for all of our expenditures from the city's general fund, and all the revenue that comes in from the golf course goes back to the general fund as well.
So when you calculate how much money the golf course generates versus how much is used, there's the allocation or the budgeting for the consultants and for all the mitigation work that may need to be done, and some you're doing already. Is that going into that budget, like when you say, okay, we have this much money?
That's correct. At present,
that goes into that calculation?
yes, at present, the funding source is the city's general fund.
Okay,
And
so
I'm sorry
if
I misunderstood your question.
Not sure. I think the question that she tried to ask, Lynn, was, okay, there is $500,000 left, right? That goes into the general fund. Does that include is that before or after the mitigation fees and the consultant fees and other expenses that are related to the execution of the commitments under the impact report from 2014?
Yes, it is before. The golf course operating budget, which is what we discussed today, is sourced from the general fund, and any revenue and expenditures goes back to the general fund as well. In regards to specifically the mitigation related elements, right now we are funding it through a capital program. The capital program itself, however, is also funded through the city's general fund.
So it would be potentially fair to say that there is less than $500,000 left after all is taken into consideration?
If taken consideration in totality of not just operations, but everything else, then yes, it could be less.
Okay, and are there other costs like this one that are also not really included in the information you gave us, that would potentially mean that there is less than $500,000 altogether? So one would be the mitigation, the consultants that are dealing with the mitigation, but are there other things too?
There are not at present.
So this is a well, it's not just one, obviously, but it's this one category that costs costs money to, but it does not come in your budget. It's not visible in the budget. It's not exactly transparent.
I would, just to kind of clarify, for the operating budget is what we showed today. However, any capital expense would then come out of the capital improvement fund. So although as Lam did state, it comes from the general fund, it is capitalized monies and therefore wouldn't be in the operating side. And the mitigation expense currently, we have a CIP, which is part of the reconfiguration for the golf course that is ongoing, and we have that capitalized. Is that a little bit?
It's a little clearer. It still doesn't, it's not clear to me or to, the person who asked the question, I'm assuming. Overall, taking all the different categories and budget items that the golf course uses, is the golf course making money or losing money or neither, or not, or neither one of those two? Like both the capital and the operational and everything else that goes in, I would like to know at the end, is it red or is it black?
For the past, since 2001, the golf course has operated in the black overall, operating and other expenditures that are non-operating.
And it still does this year, like
That's
last year.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. The next things I have are more about the ecological questions. So when the golf course was created, as you well know, one of the goals was to improve the habitat for wildlife and make it more ecologically enhanced. So is there any monitoring of how that is working?
Within the existing conditions report, the monitoring doesn't start until, or that 5-year monitoring period will not officially start until any corrective actions, and we hear from the State Water Board on that.
I understand that. I was actually trying to think whether there were requirements from the State Water Board. Those were in the EIR, they were in the permitting process. Palo Alto had to do the monitoring and make sure that all these functions, the wetlands, the area of the wetlands, that all of that was working. But there was also the overall goal of the city to make it a habitat-friendly place, which is not part of the permitting because that included trees. Some of the trees died since then. Is there any replacement of the trees that died? There are other things that the city, as a goal of maintaining a habitat-friendly golf course, I assume that we're not doing that. Or like, it was good to hear that there's better management of the grasslands there, but I don't know if we have any monitoring of what is actually happening there. And independent of what the requirements from the water board are.
You are correct. There were separate requirements that the regulatory agencies required, primarily having to do with wetland plant species and survival rates. Separate from that, what you're referring to is the city's goals of creating wildlife habitat. I think that's what in particular. The city made multiple efforts, both on course, off site, to create an environment for wildlife, whether it be planting more plants off-site or on-site, leaving fallen trees to create what are called snags to encourage habitat to remain. Now, the other question would be the monitoring of that. That would be part of our overall stewardship of our open space areas. specifically to what's associated with the golf course, I'd say we don't have a direct correlation or link to associate one versus the other.
So that goal was essentially once we planted things, that's it, and just general some maintenance, but it wasn't really a goal to actually improve the habitat. I remember specifically asking about boring owls and other species, and the indication at the time was, yeah, we want to take care of those. And and the trees, the ones you mentioned that that what was done at the Restradero, that was another legally required mitigation. But since then, a lot of trees died; they were not replaced. So I'm asking about a little more investment in the ecology, essentially. And it sounds like it's not being done, so maybe you can consider doing some of that. I really do appreciate that there's progress. It looks like there's a lot of progress, but I would like to see even more. Now I had a few other things here. What do you do about squirrels?
We do some tolerance, and we also do some treatment of it. We use what are non-toxic methods towards addressing the wildlife pest management, and it's all in correlation to a pest management plan.
Do you use CO2 and stuff like that? Do you monitor to see that there's no boring owls in the holes before you implement?
I'd have to look into the verification of that and get back to the commission.
Thank you. Hopefully the last question is about the paspalum. In the tour that we took a few years ago, it looked like some of that was invading the wetlands. Some of it was encroaching into the wetlands on the golf course. I'm assuming that will come out as you do with the investigation and mitigation, and some of it will have to be destroyed somehow because it's not supposed to be in the wetlands. Do you know, and this is a question we asked before, if the paspalum is invading into the baylands, the fact that it's a salt-tolerant grass means that could go into the bay. Do we know if it's going into San Francisco Creek or the baylands?
We're not aware of it. At present, we know that it's where we planted it on the course, it remains on the course. But as for spreading it elsewhere throughout the baylands, we're not aware of that.
Do you monitor, or you just don't know because nobody looks for it?
I look regularly. I walk the trail, and I haven't seen it. And
Thank you.
paspalum is a pretty easy grass to recognize.
Right.
It's certainly, paspalum grows laterally, so it's something that we do have to keep an eye on. It is important to my boss, who is sitting right there, that I do that sort of thing, and I do it.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And
My
it's
pleasure.
a relief. I was worried about that. It's something that came up in the EIR all these years ago. So thank you for that. I think I'll see if anybody else has, and I'll see if I have more later. And by the way, Topgolf just got cited for food contamination. So they have another problem on their plate.
Commissioner Ding.
I have a question about the percentage of revenue from the golf versus the restaurant.
The golf course, although we have a single operator providing all services, the food and beverage service is also provided by OB Sports. However, it's provided under a license agreement. where they are licensed to provide food and services and lease the restaurant as their own business. And so when we reflect on our financial figures, there is no expenditure related to that, neither is any revenue related to that. I'm sorry, there is a rent revenue factor and utilities payment factor. However, that's the extent of it.
And not substantial then.
It's not substantial when you look at a $5 million revenue, how much rent and how much utilities is paid. But the city did not want to be in the restaurant business. And so we opted to, when we went out for a request for proposal for an operator, we asked operators to provide us various models. And the model we chose was the current operator who provides course maintenance, practice facilities, course play, and then also takes on food and beverage as their own separate business, however. And so it works with us because it's still seamless. It's a single operator, and it's still seamless to the customer, regardless of whether or not the OB Sports operates it as their business or whether it's through the city.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So I have a quick comment. Thanks for the lovely presentation and really comprehensive. My daughter actually 10 years ago, when he was 11, participated, and I really enjoyed the golf course. I'm actually have a separate question about the wetland. More consideration since it's been nicely redone. For the new signage, are we considering multi-language on that? Thinking of the diversity of our community now with more Hispanic speaking and Chinese speaking. And I think I have mentioned I saw a lot of Chinese tourists from either overseas or locally, and they did not know how to do it. I did a couple of volunteer just on the spot in the Bayland itself. And I wonder that would help us to serving our local community with 35% Asian and 10% Latinos here.
Thank you for the question, Commissioner. At present, the signs are in English. I think we will take that into consideration, and it looks like our golf operator would like to comment as well.
Yeah, and we have a lot of East Palo Alto residents come to use our facilities. So we're delighted to have, the language serving their community, especially the Spanish language, and simplified Chinese Mandarin will be also useful. Be happy to help you to bring translators, etc., if you need. Thanks so much.
Obviously, we have budgetary concerns, but this is not something that we would be have a huge impact on our budget. I don't see this as an issue. I think that we could do this pretty easily in a lot of areas. I can tell you with certainty that I could make this happen pretty quickly.
Thank you. I'm very glad. Thanks very much.
My pleasure.
Commissioner Connors.
Yeah, I have a couple of, I don't know if it's questions or comments, but the Audubon certification, that's really cool, but that's just a business, right? I mean, Audubon is not a trade name. It's anyone can create an Audubon. And so that's, I think they have some, I've seen some golf courses that were Audubon certified, but I'm not really sure how valuable that certification really is in terms of bringing birds in a place like this. And so I'm just making that comment. It looks nice, but it's a business. So, yeah. And I have a question to staff about the sewer line from East Palo Alto. There was a plan to bring through the edge of the golf course near the airport, a sewer line coming from East Palo Alto. Are you guys working on that, or is what's going on with that? Nothing.
With apologies, we in community services staff are not aware of this and not involved in this project. I I think we can look into it. When you, just for clarification, you're referring to a sewer line and not necessarily a reclaimed water line. Is that correct?
As far as I remember, it was a few months ago. There was, I'll look it up and I'll send it to Kristen.
Thank you.
I'm aware of it. It's just not hard.
But it's going through the golf course, so I think it would be good to just have you guys review.
Thank you.
I want to thank you for the presentation and coming out of numbers to give us some excellent details to the questions we have, and a great presentation overall. I was going to start out by saying it's great to see that the golf course is profitable, and it's definitely better than the option, the other option. I think it would be helpful. I don't know, staff, is it reasonable to request a summary of kind of a net profit of the golf course, taking into consideration when the numbers we're looking at, but also CIPs that are directly influencing this, so we have a kind of a better, a clearer picture of everything that's involved. And if we, at some point, something over the past 5 years or whatever, not looking to make this an onerous task, but I think it's helpful. It would be helpful information for full transparency. So I'm seeing heads nodding yes.
I think we can have a look at that. I think I'm not aware in my other agencies that I worked at, typically when you have an operator, you look at operating expenses because the city is, in terms of ownership of the land, they're essentially leasing the facility in a sense. I'm talking just more higher level. They're leasing the facility, and as the owner, we the city are taking ownership of those capital improvements. So we can discuss internally, but and get back to the commission.
Yeah, on that, I mean, if we're asking for that for a golf, should we be asking for that for aquatics? Like, why are we only asking for that for golf in this one particular instance?
That seems to be a fair question. But I think given the concern about the mitigation work that's needed to be done, I think it'd be helpful to see how that. I think there's community interest in seeing how that's playing out. I mean, overall, I think I'm not sure how many different parallels there are between swimming and aquatics, or between aquatics and golf, which often in the past have presented it to the Parks and Rec Commission on the same evening. I don't know if there's other parallels, but and again, don't want to make this onerous for staff and not trying to draw this out, but I'll look for staff to come back and see what you think is reasonable.
Understood. And if you're specific into mitigation and monitoring and tracking that, there's a CIP. I am happy to send the commission a link to that page where you can see funding, and you can follow that as well. So if that's the particular line item you're interested in.
I think that's probably the primary thing. I can't speak for other commissioners, but I mean, are we talking about two CIPs basically, one for infrastructure and one for the environmental mitigations? I mean, it's not that complex a calculation. It's kind of what I was expecting. On a much lighter level, great to see the work being done on the course with the split rail fencing. I appreciate your Matt's comment that we can try to get people not to race after the golf balls. It's an education, behavior education issue. I'm assuming the golf balls that are hit out of bounds do get retrieved at some point, or I mean, it's not like we're and is that. Can you explain that process? And is there any? I mean, if somebody hits a ball out of bounds, is it reasonable to ask them to let you know later, or I'm
we asked them, as part of the kind of the welcome and explaining the day from the starter, we talk about the environmental sensitive areas and how to proceed in those. We do let them go in there to retrieve their ball, but ask them to put it back out onto the fairway, back out into the playable grass to play their next shot with no penalty. So most golfers like that. There's some people that like to play a little bit more stringent to the rules, but that's our message to them is let's retrieve your ball out of there. A golf ball can cost $5 a piece, like one little round white thing, $5. So people are going to chase those. We did make an adjustment to one of the areas on the golf course on number 6 that was just had a high propensity for balls to run off the fairway because of the slope and the grade of the hole. They would run off into probably the largest area of wetlands on the course, between 6 and 7. And so we graded it. We brought soil in, so those balls now will come into a little swale and come back down into an area. So we changed that area on the golf course, and we've seen a lot of progress with that. So that area used to be just trampled dirt, and now it's revitalized and it's grown into native again.
okay. So then if I understand correctly, the mitigation or messaging is there's a fence you can hop over to get your ball, but don't play on the other side of the fence. Okay.
Yeah, that's the message.
And good to understand. I know it's been discussed a couple of times, but I'm still not clear about why the numbers on how our profit was down, how our expenses were up this year and the profit was down. So we were paying for potable water instead of non-potable water in some areas, and that led to
There was a meter error from utilities. We're working with them to rectify the issue, and we will be receiving a refund. So it's in the works.
Okay, so when you say it's an error, that this is we were charged more than we should have been.
Yes.
And so that money's coming back. And so in reality, if you balanced it over 2 years, then things look much better.
Correct.
Okay, that's good to clarify. So it's good news. We should speak in more detail and make thorough when things are good news like this. That's great. Yeah, substantial good news. Thank you. Just more on the Audubon certification. Could you just talk a little bit about what that means and what it does? It sounds great. It's great.
Yeah. So the case study we're doing right now is owls, and there's bird boxes throughout all the native areas throughout the golf course, and also some of the native species, the native flowers in there. So we're doing a case study on those. The Audubon is a business, but they also have very stringent and exhausting, I'll tell you, incredibly exhausting criteria to meet that certification. And it can take 3 to 5 years to get the certification. So while it is a business, I believe there are great benefits to have that from not only from public relations piece of the puzzle, but truly the Audubon piece. So monitoring different species throughout your the native areas or the non-golf areas, I'll call them, on a golf course. So it's not something that lots of golf courses are just willing to jump in and say, we're going to go get Audubon, because it's an expensive and exhausting process.
Thanks.
But it is beneficial to the golf course. It is beneficial to the non-golf areas, and it's beneficial to birds and different species throughout the golf course.
And any rough numbers on what percentage of golf courses have carry this distinction?
I can get that number and pass it through staff to get to the commission for sure.
Great. Thank you for the clarifications. It's, I mean, overall, this is a great success story for the community and for the region, and appreciate the careful management team, both within staff, inside and outside of staff that we have. Thank you. Thank you. Other comments?
I have one question and follow-up. You said that you changed the contours so the balls don't go. Does that change the hydrology so that the water will not flow into the wetlands?
Yeah, good question. No, actually, there is a catch basin in that low area to begin with, so we did not have to change the grade at all. We basically built a berm as it goes from the golf course slope down into the wetlands. We built a berm up.
And it doesn't block runoff into the wetlands. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just one last question. You talked a little bit about the restaurant, and do you have a sense of how well it's doing, first of all? And is there any conversation for the future about redeveloping the area of the restaurant and the conference space and the dining room area? At one point, somebody had talked about that. So could that be in a plan ever?
I can comment on how it's doing if you, yeah. Overall, the restaurant suffered during COVID. And we've had the same food and beverage manager since we opened the golf course, which has been nice. He's created a lot of continuity in the restaurant, a lot of the same staff from opening, but almost all, I would say, out of the 15 restaurant employees, 13 of them have been there for more than 3 years. So we have a lot of continuity there, and it's created a semi-profitable enterprise for us. I mean, it's not like we have to go get business. There is business that's there. I mean, people who go to the golf course, they'd like to have a beer, they'd like to have a hot dog, whatever. We do have a friendly golfer menu, but we also have menus that cater to people who are in the businesses in the surrounding area. Personally, I think it'd be great if the city wanted to build us a banquet center. I think that would be amazing. Yeah, because we have, we're doing 60,000 rounds of golf. We have a lot of people who inquire about it, frankly. And I think it would be a revenue source for the city that could be beneficial. Somehow, some way we could, figure that out. I think it would be significant. Don't know ROIs and so on and so forth, but a lot of people ask about it.
And I can comment further. Yeah, there's certainly a captive audience with the golfer, right? So 60,000, but we have been able to. The staff has done a terrific job with menus, with service, with consistency of food and service to draw in the Mercedes and all the, let's say, car dealership row there on Embarcadero. So a lot of those businesses come over for lunch. We do have not a robust, I won't call it that, but a good banquet, kind of more meeting event business. The room is not the large size we can host large events, so that's certainly restricting that. Parking is another piece of the puzzle that when you add 250 golfers, the circus that goes on every afternoon with all the golfers practicing, and then adding 100 or so cars for a banquet, it's very limiting. So there's people parking on the street as well. So that would need to be studied together.
Well, thank you very much. It's lovely to think about.
Yes, it is. No, absolutely. Absolutely. There is a market for it. And I'll tell you that we have golf courses that do 50 to 100 weddings a year. So there is a market for it.
You want to wrap us up, Chair?
Yeah, thank you. And again, thanks for the great presentation and the follow-up questions. I do want to applaud the staff and also those presented to put this together and to have a very successful program. Also, thanks for being being proactive in that, mentioned about the area in which you built up to keep people from, you know, abusing the area, and then really focus on the environmental issues. So thank you for that. I do have one question that came up during the discussion, and I'll let you go on that. And that you mentioned that there is a wait list, I guess, for the first tee for students. Could you elaborate a little bit on that? I mean, you mentioned, and how long is that wait list? Do they eventually end up in the program, or the wait list is so long that they just become adults and just forget it?
Sure. So, so every season there are what, 8 classes, 2 each day, Tuesday through Friday. So any given class could have a wait list. And just to clarify, so that's where we see the wait list is given classes. It's not the overall season is impacted necessarily. They get first priority the next season. So we keep track of those kids and all that contact information, and they get basically early registration the next season. And to clarify from earlier, the place where we see the biggest demand across the board throughout all Silicon Valley is Saturdays. So that's the other twist here with Baylands, is we have no Saturday programming. That's the reason for the interest in the youth area, because that would easily expand the program tremendously.
So would the long-term agreement solve that problem, or this is beyond, I guess, solvable?
Oh, it most definitely would. So to me, the long-term agreement is tied to that youth area. I mean, we can keep doing what we're doing, and will, Tuesday through Fridays. There's no reason to change that, as I see it, as First Tee sees it. But there's huge demand for Saturday programming. And the whole point of the youth area is to coordinate all that programming, or as much of that as possible, in the youth area, so it's not affecting the rest of the golf operations.
Okay. So the longer we wait on the long-term agreement, the more people that won't be able to take advantage of the program. So thanks for that clarification.
Sure.
Okay. With that being said, we'll move on to the next item. But again, thank you for the very well done presentation.
And Chair, if I could also thank you and thank the commission as well, and thank the support that is here today from staff to our partners, the golf course operator and the First Tee as well. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to the next item, which is the South Palo Alto Bike Pedestrian Connectivity.
Yes, wonderful. I will invite some of my colleagues from the Office of Transportation up. We have, let's see, Charlie Coles and Sylvia Starlack, who will be presenting this evening. Are you just pulling up the slides? Yep.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Sylvia Starlack, Transportation Planning Manager in the Office of Transportation. It's nice to see you. I have with me today Senior Transportation Planner Charlie Coles, and he will share with you where we are with the South Palo Alto Bicycle and Pedestrian Connectivity Project.
Good evening, Commissioners. Again, Charlie Coles, Senior Transportation Planner with the Office of Transportation, here to talk to you about the South Palo Alto Bike Ped Connectivity Project. I have a few slides that I want to run through, but before I do just want to maybe expand on some of what was presented to you in the staff report before getting into kind of the overview of the project. And I just really wanted to emphasize that the Parks and Recreation Commission is one of 6 committees that we've identified to be most relevant to engage with during the first phase of this project. And the main reason for that is, as I'll talk about later in my presentation, that some of the potential grade separated rail crossings that we'll be looking at later has the opportunity to connect with existing parks in the city. And so recognizing that PRC also advises on recreational activities and active transportation, we decided it was appropriate to engage with you all on this project. And hopefully that helps just provide some additional context before we kind of get into all of this. So first, just providing an overview of what we're going to be covering tonight and what we would like to get from the commission. So the staff report that was provided provides an overview of the project and work completed to date. We've recommended PRC review the existing conditions report and a draft goals and design priorities memorandum, and we'll be requesting feedback on initial crossing opportunity locations and draft design priorities and evaluation criteria that I'll get into later in this presentation. Next slide, please. So here is our agenda. We will talk about the project. Given this is the first time that we're bringing this project forward to you, we'll provide you a kind of big picture thinking for where this is headed. And then we'll get into work completed to date and some next steps. And then I'll talk about the locations that we've identified, as well as the draft design priorities and evaluation criteria. Okay, so big picture project objectives. So the purpose of this project is to improve bicycle and pedestrian access across the rail corridor in the southern portion of the city. To do this, we'll be looking to identify 2 locally preferred locations and design concepts for additional grade separated bicycle and pedestrian crossings of the Caltrain corridor. Each of the 2 preferred crossing concepts will be developed into what we call 15% designs. So these are still pretty conceptual, but they will have enough detail to be able to generally see what these future crossings could look like. A final plan will be prepared along with an implementation plan and funding strategy. And then we'll be looking to secure grant funding or other funding sources for next steps, which includes environmental review, final design, and ultimately construction. So just want to emphasize this is the first step in a longer process and really considered the conceptual planning phase of the overall project. So this is our project study area. There is a what we have defined as study area shown in on your screen in a dashed blue line. But really what we're focusing on is the crossing of the railroad corridor in the southern part of the city, and we define that as south of Page Mill Road or Oregon Expressway. The study area figure that we have on the screen also shows current crossing locations. So that's the gray dots that you see there. Suggested walking and cycling routes. Those are the green lines. And then we also have parks labeled here just for some additional context. So you can kind of see Hoover Park, Mitchell Park, Robles Park, all within or near the study area as an example. Current bicycle and pedestrian crossings. I know you're all familiar with the city, but just to provide a bit more context here, within and near the study area includes the California Avenue Bike Ped underpass. That's just to the north of the study area shown on your screen. There's also the Meadow and Charleston crossings, which are currently at grade for all modes, bikes, peds, vehicles. And then there's, in Mountain View, there's a underpass at the San Antonio Caltrain station where bikes and peds can cross the railroad at that point. Oregon Expressway and San Antonio Road are shown here as existing crossings. They are primarily for vehicles. If you're familiar with the area, there is limited to no bicycle and pedestrian facilities at those crossing locations, but we've identified them as current and existing crossings. Next slide, please. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the significance of this project. Several citywide plans and studies have identified a critical need for additional grade separated crossings in the southern portion of the city. Some of those studies are shown on your screen. And so this project here is really implementing the recommendations of previous plans and work that the city has done to focusing on addressing mobility gaps and barriers to walking and biking in support of the city's mobility and sustainability goals. There are also other, as you're all probably pretty aware, other ongoing and future projects happening at this part of the city. This includes the bicycle and pedestrian transportation plan update that is ongoing, and this looks at kind of the future citywide bike and ped network. There's the housing element update, which was recently adopted, and the future housing that would be built along El Camino Real and in the vicinity of San Antonio Road in South Palo Alto. There's the San Antonio Road Area Plan, which is an initiative that's just kicking off. This is reimagining the whole San Antonio Road area. There's a Palo Alto Safe Streets for All action plan, which looks at making a shift in how we think about transportation safety citywide. There's the Cumberly Community Center project that's reimagining the community center. There's also the rail grade separation projects that are happening at Meadow and in our study area, at Meadow and Charleston, and then in addition at Churchill, which is looking for full grade separation for all travel modes. That's bikes, peds, and vehicles. So there's a lot happening at this part of the city. And, all of these things really go together. And I thought that just context would help kind of frame the bigger picture of why the city is moving this project forward at this time. Next slide, please. Okay, so here's our project timeline. We've also identified when throughout the project we plan to engage with the community. So it's a step-by-step approach. I've shown we've completed the review of existing conditions and are currently in phase 1 of community engagement. We're working with the community to establish design priorities for crossing alternatives. Next, the project team will be developing crossing alternatives and designs, and then we'll be sharing those with the community for feedback in phase 2, which will be happening in the fall of later this year. Following phase 2, there'll be some refinements of alternatives, and then a public draft report will be released for review and comment in phase 3. And then the goal for phase 4 will be to ultimately obtain council adoption of a final plan. And as I mentioned before, towards the end of this project, we'll also be looking for funding opportunities to fund the next phases of this work. Next slide. So we're wrapping up phase 1 engagement. As I mentioned, we have 6 committees. This is the 5th committee meeting, so it's been a busy last few weeks. And then we'll be doing kind of a roundup with council later this summer. But on your screen kind of shows a variety of different tools, activities, meetings that we've engaged with the community on throughout phase 1. I won't go through all of this, but I'm happy to talk more about ways that we've engaged with the community and tried to raise awareness of this project. Happy to answer any questions on that during the Q&A. Next slide, please. So quickly, just wanted to talk about the existing conditions report. This was provided in the staff report for this evening and has been available online for a couple months now. The purpose of this was to establish a detailed baseline of information to inform the future crossings, designs, and the bike ped networks that would be built along with those crossings, so you're able to get to and from the future crossings with ease. Included are the sections on the slide that are also part of the existing conditions report. And happy to kind of talk about any of the information that's within the existing conditions report. But one thing I just wanted to emphasize is that at the end of the report, we come up with what we've called potential crossing opportunity locations. And so this is one of the items that we'll be asking for your input on this evening. And so I'll talk a little bit about what those crossing locations are all about on the next slide. Okay, so as part of the existing conditions report, it included a detailed review of existing conditions data, previous plans and studies, right-of-way constraints, and we also did some field visits throughout the study area to try to identify where there are the most opportunities for a future crossing. And so we've identified locations, we've labeled them A through F on your screen, and those darker blue bubbles. And they are defined in the staff report as well, but I'll kind of just go through these here quickly just to maybe explain them a bit further. Location A, this is generally near Colorado Avenue and Page Mill Road. Location B is from El Dorado Avenue to Loma Verde Avenue. This is a larger segment that has been identified in previous plans and studies as one particular location with kind of a high opportunity for bike ped connectivity in the future crossing. Location C is near Barron Creek and El Verano Avenue. Location D is somewhere between Meadow Drive and Charleston Avenue, with a potential connection from Lindero Drive to Robles Park, adjacent to Park Boulevard. So I mentioned at the start of my presentation that there was at least one location where there would be a connection to a park. This is that location. So Robles Park is one potential connection that we've identified as an opportunity. There is location E, which is near Adobe Creek. This includes a potential connection to Eli Place and Green Meadow Way. And then there's location F, which is generally the San Antonio Road interchange and near the interchange. So this could include a future crossing or connection at San Antonio Avenue, which is adjacent to San Antonio Road and the interchange. Or we could look at various designs or modifications to the existing structure, overpass structure at San Antonio Road to accommodate bike ped movements. So we're looking for your feedback on those opportunity locations, and anything you have to share there will be very helpful. Next, we'll talk about the design priorities. And so we've identified the draft design priorities that are shown on your screen and were described in the agenda packet. These were identified based on project needs, goals, benefits, and themes documented in several other plans and studies that have been prepared by the city. I would think of these as kind of the overarching goals of the project. As the project, as kind of the project teams moves forward with looking at various crossing designs and structure designs, how those designs can vary based on how much weight you put into one or another one of these design priorities. So think of these as kind of the big picture thinking for as you approach designing a future crossing. The outcome would vary. So this is another item that we're looking for your feedback on this evening. So with that in mind, as the project team moves forward, which of these design priorities would you suggest be prioritized? Which are most important? Which are least important? And why? I think that would be really helpful. And then building off of the design priorities, if you're able to advance to the next slide, you will see we've identified draft evaluation criteria. So this builds off of the previous slide. On your far left, you see the draft design priorities listed there. Those are the same categories that were described on the previous slide. And then for each of those design priorities, we have evaluation criteria. So you can think of these as metrics. These will be how we're going to evaluate future crossings against one another and ultimately put together a package of information that the community will use to make a decision about which two crossings to move forward with at the end of this project. So this is what we're looking for your input on this evening as well. Which of these metrics make sense? Are there any that you would revise? Is there something that we're missing? This is the type of input that we would really value. So I have one more slide, and it's really just a summary of kind of the key questions. We can leave this slide up here to help kind of guide the discussion, but happy to answer any questions and look forward to receiving your feedback. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for the presentation and also for the material that you provided to the commission as well. I would like to go ahead and open this up to public comment. See if we have anyone out there, both on Zoom or in person.
There are no additional public comments at this time.
Okay.
Chair,
No, go ahead.
I have a quick qualifying question I'm interested in asking.
Okay, go ahead and do that.
Just to clarify, so you have your phase, we're in phase one of the plan, and I'm holding back my comments on what an incredible amount of information you've put together and you're throwing at us as well. But it's a very comprehensive and some excellent work. But my question is, are you planning to return to the Parks and Rec Commission during phase two for more feedback on the alternatives, or is this you're looking to? Is this more of a one-stop shop here? Or?
Yeah, that's still to be determined. I think a lot of that will depend on what crossing locations ultimately we move forward. So from phase one, we have to come up with 8 crossing alternatives that will then move forward through kind of an alternative evaluation. And then from those 8, those get selected down to 2. So that will be the goal of phase 2. We'll start with the 8 and we'll get to 2. So again, that all depends. If we end up with a location that involves a park, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Great. And you touched upon my other clarifying question, just trying to understand the 8 alternatives. And I think I understand that. I mean, you've identified 6 sites, but there's different ways to approach a site. And so that's what you're talking about by eight alternatives. So
that's correct.
And just to chime in on Commissioner Greenfield's clarifying question, you mentioned that you will be, besides the Park and Rec Commission, you'll be going to other, the City Council and others. Once you have kind of made the rounds there, will that necessitate coming back to the Parks and Rec Commission, even though maybe it doesn't involve a park?
Yeah, I appreciate the question. It's still to be determined. I think at this point, the way we've envisioned this and recognizing that this is still a tentative plan, we're still, the project evolves as it moves forward. And so we're customizing things as we move forward. But at this time, we see City Council as kind of the key decision-making body. So they will generally receive kind of the rounded up information of what's all the information and feedback that we got from Payback, PRC, PTC, et cetera. We have the full list of 5 committees and then City Council being the 6th.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that.
And that makes sense. And it's looks like it's been a very busy month for you with this being your 5th committee meeting this month.
Okay. Okay, I'll put this out for, are there any other clarifying questions from the commission? Okay, if not, let's go ahead and move forward with questions that the commission might have. So Commissioner Greenfield, if you could monitor that'd be great.
Would anyone care to speak first? Commissioner Kleinhaus?
Thank you. Looking at the draft design priorities, these are generally good, but when you have minimized community impacts, parks are not mentioned. So I think, looking at parking spaces, roads, buildings, but there's nothing about minimizing impacts to parkland. And I think it really is needed there. So that's my first comment and the only one right now.
Great presentations. Thank you. Appreciate we got it rehearsed a few times before you came to us. um, just giving sort of my general thoughts on page 72 of the attachment A, the full report. Just really liked the pictures accompanying the different alternatives. So that was very helpful when looking at the map as well. I'd say that the Colorado Avenue and Page Mill Road one seems like we'd get a lot of bang for a buck there, just with the connectivity to trains and how it would connect to the sort of California Avenue, Park Boulevard. I see a lot of people running to catch that train on their bikes, carrying their bikes to get under that underpass. And there is a park very close to that. So there is that added for that option as well, even though it's not explicitly mentioned. And then moving on to the evaluation framework, I'm sure this is not the most popular one, but I do think constructability is certainly something that is high on my list, and just something that is feasible, something that's cost effective, something that can be done in a timely manner, because we've done all this community outreach, and nothing is so disappointing to somebody who's so involved in the process to see it sit on a shelf because we can't afford it or it can't be done. So keeping in mind all of the other wonderful criteria on that framework with actually improving visibility and mobility and making it beautiful, but really keeping not forgetting that the constructability is really a key factor to bringing it to life, and so keeping Public Works or whoever would be involved in those discussions. But overall, it seemed like a very robust plan. Those were my two initial feedbacks.
Okay, I'll go ahead and make some comments. Great comprehensive plan, a lot to digest. Some initial comments I have are the biggest gap area that we have in terms of a connection, and also the only one that's included on the list of top priority bike ped routes is the Matadero Loma Verde connection, and so it seems pretty clear that that's definitely a big area, that a major area of emphasis to look to find something there. I'm not sure, what you've been hearing in terms of how to spread out the two. I mean, Colorado Page Mill is a busy area, but it's also very close to the Cal Ave tunnel, so that's something that could take away priority from that. The big elephant, I'm not sure where he lives, but the rail grade crossing project, it seems a major consideration to consider. If you're talking about adding a connection between East Meadow and Charleston, and we don't know what the rail separation crossings are going to look like, it seems really hard to proceed with that. I'm hoping that it might be on a faster timeline than the rail crossings, but also in terms of the minimizing impacts to the neighborhoods. That's a neighborhood that's going to be severely impacted by the rail crossing work, and to think about putting a connection through the middle of that seems to be exacerbating that pain a little bit. San Antonio Road is interesting to consider. It's hard to imagine much public support for adding a bike lane on the existing overpass. It just seems kind of way up there. But in the bigger picture, I think it might be helpful for the commission to hear a little bit more on the ideas of what the rail crossings are going to look like. It's not that there's impacts. Maybe talking a little bit more about the impacts of any type of rail crossing and the challenges you go through in trying to determine a crossing. The length of the crossing. The bridge that we have over Highway 101 connecting to the Baylands is great, but there's certainly a considerable overhead in terms of how much additional distance one has to travel to go across it. And this becomes a consideration when there are alternatives for people on bikes or people walking. If they're going to have to take a longer path, are they actually going to use this, or do they go with a shorter crossing that exists going straight over the road? And I'm not telling you anything you don't know already, but just interested in your insights on how you're attacking this problem.
Yeah, I'm happy to kind of add to that. So a big part of phase two will be to look at our options. But I can tell you that the project team has been thinking a lot about it already. As of you, I can certainly see that. There's really a few ways to get across. You go over or you go under. The question is, and then a question is, if you're going under, do you also go under Alma? So California Avenue Tunnel, for example, goes under the railroad and Alma, but the Homer Tunnel just goes under the Caltrain rail alignment, and then you have some kind of a signalized intersection at Homer to get across Alma. So there's a variety of options there that we'll be exploring. I can tell you that early on we have looked at what a overcrossing could realistically could sort of look like. And pretty early on, I think we're ruling out any kind of overcrossing, with the exception of maybe down at the San Antonio Road overpass. And this is really due to the height of the Caltrain electrical lines that are now there. They're in excess of 20, 30 feet. And then you need to have a crossing, and there's some amount of distance above that. So realistically, we're talking 3 stories up in the air. I think the 101 overpass you mentioned isn't even that high, so it would be even higher than that. So just given that, we'll likely kind of be ruling that out pretty early in phase 2. So a lot of the options to be expected for in phase 2, kind of the next phase of this work, will be mostly a variety of different tunnel combinations. But then there's the San Antonio Road overpass and what opportunities there may be there as well. So there could be some options that look to use the existing overcrossing, doing some minor adjustments to build in a kind of a protected separated bike lane, potentially going down the middle of the overpass. But then the question is, how do we make those connections on either side? Part of that would be in Mountain View, part of that would be in Palo Alto. So there's some details to work out there, but that's kind of how the project team has been thinking about it so far, and we hope to bring a lot of that forward during the next phase of this work.
Thank you. I could ask more questions, but maybe others who haven't spoken have any comments? Chair, you have anything?
Yeah, thank you, Vice Chair. I do have, and again, very, very thorough report, and it's not like you guys have a lot of work ahead of you. You just mentioned overcrossing versus underpass. I think you mentioned that the overcrossing was one that you had looked at, but probably would be eliminated because of the high electrical lines. But would there be sort of a hybrid solution that you might? Because I'm thinking that overcrossing probably would speed up the project and probably be at a lesser cost than an underpass. Are you eliminating that for all locations as a consideration?
Yeah, it's still something that we're going to get into with the project team. We're looking at all potential locations, not just our opportunity locations. But I'll say that, the purpose of the opportunity locations was as a first step to kind of communicate these are the places where we're going to be focusing our energy. And looking to get consensus from the community or any kind of feedback or input on that. And, especially if there's a location that we missed, we'd want to take a look at that as well. Still more to come. And, we'll document that process during the next phase of work.
Okay. And it's great that you mentioned the community, and I know it was also good to see how you had put in the demographics and the fact that we have a very diverse population. And going along with that, there seems to be a large number of I think you had in your report it said there were a number of non-English speaking residents, particularly of those who speak, Chinese or Asian Indian languages, which you indicated makes up a significant portion of the population. Um, what, I guess, what methods are being put in place to make sure that you do in fact reach that segment of the population that might not have a good understanding of what this project entails, but probably have some valuable input to offer as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think a really good comment. We can kind of think about, ways to make sure that the community, especially those where English is not their first language, are able to contribute and provide input on this project. To date, we have, and I had showed on my screen kind of the variety of different ways that we've been engaging with the community. This included an online survey that closed last week. And my understanding is that it is able to be translated, though. I think the online survey has the ability to be able to toggle between different languages, but maybe I should double check that first.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah.
Yeah, there's that. My understanding is that the council chambers also has the ability for language translation. So during committee meeting or council meetings, those that attend those meetings are able to receive those translations in real time. And then, oh, my thoughts are escaping me here. But in addition to a lot of the engagement, which we think of as not one way, but two-way communication. There's also been what we consider outreach. And so this is more one-way communication to raise awareness of this project. And so that came in the form of a variety of social media posts, posts through Uplift Local, which is the kind of the city's e-news. There was also mailers that we sent out, over 1,500 mailers that was sent all along, really within a block of the rail corridor. So if you lived or owned a business along the rail corridor, you should have received a mailer. So these are all ways that we're really trying to get the word out and engage with the community. Albeit most of that is in English, but maybe we should talk with the consultant team to think about ways to make sure that we're providing those who maybe aren't able to speak English as well with opportunities to do so going forward.
Yeah. Yeah, because that seems to be a pretty large segment of the population that you're dealing with in those areas as well. I also mentioned, how will you, I guess, ensure, also putting in that the information about the number of injuries that have occurred in different areas. How do you, I guess, factor that into reaching out to those high injury corridors, such as Oregon Expressway and El Camino Real, to make sure you get feedback from those areas as well?
Yeah, so I think a lot of that future engagement will come during the next phase of work, where not only will we be putting forward crossing designs, but we're also going to be putting forward a series of improvements to improve the bicycle and pedestrian network to and from those future crossings. And those network improvements would go blocks in some cases away from the rail corridor. And so, at that point, we'll have a better sense of where those improvements would be and, who are the people to be most impacted or, benefited from those improvements as they're proposed.
Okay, thank you. And again, thank you for giving the Parks and Rec Commission an opportunity to respond to this as well. So I'll turn it back to you, Vice Chair Greenfield, if there's any other lights on this.
Thank you. Any other commissioners like to comment on? I'll go ahead and finish up with a few comments. I think a lot of I think overall your priorities that you've outlined are right on target. One thing I might just add under enhanced experiences is including convenience as a priority, a sub priority, just in terms of the convenience for the route. It's kind of related to length as well, but at least call it out to make it clear. I think safety, of course, has to be a priority, and no plan would get approved if there wasn't a feeling within the community that is safe. With that in mind, you're talking about a lot of potentials for undercrossings, and people don't like tunnels. It seems like it might be maybe the most viable, but I avoid the Calab tunnel just because I'd rather go for a longer ride on Park Avenue to get through, and I think that's a sentiment that's worth considering. The one other area that neighboring that's right on the corner of the focus area is the Stanford Mayfield playing fields, which is a big corridor with a lot of people traveling there by bike, particularly not so much by foot, but I think that would be worth calling out in your plan. I think certainly the community is going to be looking to avoid impacting existing parcels. We've seen how that's played out on the rail crossing discussions. With that said, if I'm not completely opposed to using a park area as an ingress egress point. I think it could make a lot of sense for some convenience standpoint. Obviously, we'd hope that not take up too much park acreage, but it could be something that's a more acceptable alternative to the community. Sort of like the little park that the Calab Tunnel opens up onto. That's general comments I have right now. Thanks for coming to us for feedback. Are there any other commissioners that would like to comment or turn it back over to Chair Freeman?
Okay, thank you, and thanks again for the presentation. We look forward to following the progress of this, and if there's anything that we can offer, feel free to reach out to staff, and we'll keep track of what's going on with this to provide any feedback that we can as well. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is the work plan and meeting agenda update.
Yes, it is. And I think for this item's discussion, which will be helpful, is if we can bring up a working document of the work plan. And if there's any changes or discussions, we can kind of frame the conversation there. And I think that will get us to approval of a plan that everyone is in agreement with.
Excuse me, Chair, before we jump in, I just wanted to let you know that it looks like we're down to 5 commissioners currently in attendance. The time is getting close to 10 o'clock. The work plan isn't the easiest item for the commission to work on, but I think there's a couple different aspects to this agenda item, and one of them is talking about creating an ad hoc for Cubberley, and that I might suggest that we focus on that part of the agenda item and stay the rest of the discussion for the next meeting. I'm interested in staff's thoughts on that and the impact of that.
Is there interest in assigning ad hoc members tonight to the Cubberley?
Well,
Ad hoc if we create one? Because we don't have, obviously, everyone here to just, volunteer.
Yeah. Well, we're missing, what, 2 people, right? What am I missing? Well, 2 people.
Yes, Commissioner Way, I believe, are you still online?
No, she's
off. She's off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Commissioner Brown just left as well.
Okay.
I think the approach, Chair, that we discussed was if there are edits to the work plan.
Right.
So if the commissioners still here are able to get to a consensus of the plan, and if there is consensus on adding a Cubberley, we would then agendize it as an action item at the following month's meeting.
Right. Yeah. So that was part of the discussion that we had. So, for instance, if we decide that Coverly would be separated from the Wellness Center or left as is, and we could then return in the June meeting, so it would be agendized at that point, and then we would create a separate ad hoc. And I'm just using the Wellness Center and Coverly as an example. Doesn't necessarily mean that that's what we would do. And then come back in June. Hopefully, we have a full commission, and then we could discuss these topics as we brought up during the retreat. There might be an opportunity also for the fact that everyone did a good job of reviewing their particular ad hocs, and then staff put everything together in a consolidated document. So you've now had an opportunity to review that and look at the goals and objectives and the timelines. And it might be maybe not at this meeting, but the next meeting, we could give people an opportunity to decide that maybe they would like to move from one ad hoc to the other. And so that might be better done at the June meeting. Okay.
I have a question about the potential Cubberley ad hoc. Are people that are on the gym will also be on Cubberley? There's like an overlap.
We had talked about combining them, the Recreation Wellness Center and Cubberley, since they're being planned as part of the Cubberley master plan.
Right. I mean, we currently have a Cubberley liaison, so that would, I think, if I recall, that would go away and actually would be part of the ad hoc presentation, during the ad hoc presentation, which would then provide input on what's happening as far as Cubberley and the Wellness Center, which is the gym as well. So that would be an opportunity for other people to decide that they would like to move to that ad hoc or move off and or move to another. That answer your question, Commissioner Kleinhaus?
Yeah, I have to say that's a little late for me to go into another discussion.
Yeah, a comment I have on that as well. Just a concern is that we have the three members of the Gym Wellness Center ad hoc are part of the nonprofit working on the wellness center, and then to have the same three. I'm just concerned about the same. If the three members of a Cubberley ad hoc are all associated with the wellness center, then there's certainly seemingly at least a perception that there would be that support would be weighted towards the wellness center over other potential considerations at Cubberley.
Yeah, and that's why we want to open up for discussion to see if there are others who might want to move out of that particular ad hoc to move on to others, and then also give other commissioners the opportunity to move into that ad hoc.
But there is another outside of this forum, there's another group that is promoting the wellness center at Cubberley. And if the same people that serve as board members there serve or served are also on an ad hoc for Cubberley, there is a certain appearance, which was stated here just now, that the ad hoc looking at Cubberley is prioritizing within Cubberley one element out of many that may come up. And so I'm concerned about this. I'm not sure how to solve it.
Staff, you have any comments on that?
Well, one option would be to just have two separate ad hocs, like Chair Greenfield suggested. And
I wasn't
So
quite
add-
that far, but I was raising the consideration.
that's what I heard, but if that's not what you meant, I apologize.
That's certainly one solution.
Got it. Okay.
Rather than combining, you're saying, Commissioner, Vice Chair Greenfield.
That's a possibility. I'm very sensitive to how many ad hocs we have right now. That we've already agreed that we have too many, and we're trying to and it's too many for staff. It's too many for the commission and I think the number of the commissioners that are working on the ad hocs it's not weighted so evenly as well. So there's a burden on a number of commissioners, I feel like.
Yeah, and part of my conversation I've had with staff, staff is I'm on about 5 of them, so I'm willing to move off a couple of those, including the possibility of the Coverly one as well.
What does staff expect that this ad hoc for Cubberley, in addition to wellness, let's say we have 2, what would that additional ad hoc contribute to the process?
Do you mean the Cubberley ad hoc? So we've talked about this and we internally and probably need a little bit more discussion on it. Some of the things I've talked about with the city manager is possibly having some joint meetings with the council ad hoc. If there's a time where that seems appropriate and beneficial. I don't know when those times would be, but it's something we've discussed. And then the other is, as we move forward with our operating model for the community center, I think the PRC ad hoc could be very helpful in that. And when I say operating model, I don't necessarily mean like how many front desk staff do we have. It's how are spaces utilized? How are they shared? what types of spaces are available for nonprofits, for hourly rentals versus long-term rentals, things like that. So I think that would be a helpful contribution from the ad hoc.
But do you think that that would better lend itself to being a liaison versus an ad hoc? What's the,
Well,
I
it
mean,
would be helping with it's a policy decision on, I think it's more than a liaison.
But
you know.
why now? I mean, it's not gonna, you won't have to look at how to allocate space until you have some space to allocate, no? I mean, it seems like maybe for that purpose, there's time, potentially. So, because if we are going to look at two different ad hocs, the pool for the second ad hoc is very small and it could really be people who have, we don't even know who's going to come next year.
Sure.
So,
well, I mean, whether Commissioner Cribbs, you have any thoughts on this?
Yes, I think that we should do whatever we can do as a commission to support Cubberley and move it forward and make sure that it represents the needs of the whole community. And so if that's a reason to have one Cubberley ad hoc, I think that's a very useful thing to do. I think the wellness center is a little bit different. From my perspective, in that it came out of the need to have gym space, indoor space in Palo Alto someplace. And over the last couple of years, it evolved into, well, we would be happy to see a gym at Cubberley, but it's not necessarily needing to be at Cubberley. So it's sort of two different things. And I'm pretty anxious that we have people participating in the development of Cubberley who are interested in how it serves the whole community, not just how it serves the gym. So I'm happy to do whatever. And in terms of the short term, both vice chair and I will be done in November. And certainly it will have some ability to affect some kind of changes and all of that, but we're done. And I don't think we should make the decision based on what we're doing in the next 5 months because. And I think it's important that we move forward and make a decision about Cubberley and the ad hoc so that the support can come for all the things that you have going on, the things in the meetings that are coming up. So.
Yeah, I agree with what you've said, and I think Kristen has outlined a sufficient number of tasks that an ad hoc is more appropriate than a liaison for this, and it's something to get started and something that'll be built on. And there'll be a lot of figuring out things as we go along. Right. Even more than for other things.
Okay.
So I do have some comments about the work plan, but I'm hesitant to start getting into discussion. I mean, some things as simple as standardizing what we're stating for the timeline using the same using the same terminology so there's consistency from one item to another, and then I'm hesitant to with a limited group here now as well to make changes and talk about the work plan items. I think it can be a relatively quick discussion if we get started at an earlier hour.
Yeah, I mean, it is one that we should be paying a lot more attention to because it's kind of our work charter going forward, right? So I'm open.
And the work plan is also to an extent based on the people who are members of the ad hoc working on the item, and it seems like there's some uncertainty in terms of who's going to be working on which ad hocs if we're looking to do some shuffling around. So we can we create an ad hoc without assigning people to it based on. I thought we got clarification that based on the action item, this action, we can create an ad hoc.
So you can adjust your work plan in order to create an ad hoc for next month. So if there is approval tonight, but it sounds like this whole item will carry forward, is what I'm hearing for next month. Because at that point, at least with the people in the room currently, it sounds like there's support to add a Cubberly, decouple it from the Recreation Wellness Center, add some of the content from what Director O'Kane mentioned, and then bring that back at the June meeting for approval of the work plan, in addition to creating an additional ad hoc. Shawnee or Commissioner Kleinhaus?
Maybe if when it comes back, staff can give us a little comparison of pros and cons of 1 versus 2 ad hocs here.
In terms of the Cubberly and Recreation Wellness Center, yes?
Yeah, do we want 1 for both, or should we have 2? Like I said, I'm a little past my ability to figure it out, and I would like help from you guys on that.
Okay.
Maybe what I could suggest is that the chair and vice chair meet with staff before the next meeting, put together, I think it would be helpful if we put together a skeleton draft work plan for what the Cubberly ad hoc would be doing. We can have some options if it's for things that we're not clear on. But I think the commission works better to review something than to create something out of the air at a meeting. And I think we can also try to take a hard look at all of the ad hocs we have and really drill down in terms of what's realistic between now and the end of October and now and the end of the year.
One of the things that I think we wanted to make sure of was that the commissioner had an opportunity to have a say in what's going to go on at Cubberly, because for a while we weren't necessarily involved. And I think it's important that we are involved because it's about recreation and community.
No, the commission's been waiting in the wings to get tapped to say, hey, help us with Cubberly, and it's happening now. And I think the commission really needs to prioritize that. And if that means letting something else go, that's something we need to consider. Because I'm not sure there's anything on the list that's ultimately going to be a higher priority than Cubberly.
So I think what you said, Vice Chair, makes sense, that we meet in advance of the next meeting, develop a more, I don't know if these aren't your words exactly, but come up with a more detailed work plan of what the 2 ad hocs might do. And then next month, we'll review all of the work plan and decide if something needs to fall off. Is that right?
Yeah.
Are there any?
Sorry, let's make it the first or second agenda item, not the last.
Yes, yeah, agreed.
Are there any, when you quickly look at the ad hocs right now, are there any that we really don't need for the coming year?
I haven't looked at it as deeply as I should, but I still with Cubberly, one of the things that I had the impression of is that process is going really, really fast. And the city council is working on it with the consultants. I think part of what I want to see is how much influence an ad hoc from this forum would actually have. Because the fact that we want to be involved doesn't mean that we have that opportunity to the depth that the commission might want to. So I think a little analysis or something of alternatives and also how impactful would this group be with an ad hoc, potentially more or not more than just having presentations here.
I think that's a very fair comment, and I think it's an important consideration and a question as we work together to draft a work plan for Cumberly. I mean, a key question or a key goal should be to answer that question.
Sorry, I missed that, but I'll catch up on it. So what did we decide to do on this?
Have a meeting.
So in summary, what I heard was ultimately, we're not hearing this item completely this evening. We're going to, staff will meet with the chair and vice chair to continue the discussion, create a draft work plan for the Cumberly ad hoc in addition to the Recreation Wellness Center. And I also heard to put this earlier in the agenda for the June agenda. What we currently have on as a preview is adopted budget, Cumberly update, and park dedication. So this typically we like 3 business items.
Could you repeat those, please?
Sure. So this work plan item will be added. We had as the preview a Cumberly update, an adopted budget item. That's just an overview, and park dedication fiscal year 26.
So I think those all sound like they shouldn't jinx ourselves here, but should go a lot quicker. That having 4, including this maybe as the number 1 item on the agenda, will probably take a lot more time. Maybe not, but the others, but having 4, and again, we can talk about it at our pre-meeting before we agendize the June agenda, put together the June agenda.
Yeah, Chair, I agree with you. I think we can get through it. I think we might want to start with Cumberly and then do the work plan after it. That would be kind of a natural progression as we're talking further about Cumberly.
Yeah.
Is Cumberly going to be by the consultants, or are you giving this presentation?
It might be a combination. I have to look, probably a combination.
Yeah. But it is important to have the information of the commission to make sure that our goals and objectives are also fed into the Cumberly project as well. So okay. Any other comments on this item?
Just I'm not sure whether there's going to be like a presentation of the 2 or 1 or alternatives of either 2 or 1 ad hocs.
You mean keeping it as is, as a Cumberly Recreation and Wellness Center, as a separate, as a combined?
Well, we had discussions of having 2 ad hocs, 1 for Cumberly and 1 for the Wellness Center, or we could only have 1 ad hoc for both together. So I kind of hope that we'll get some information on both options.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. And I think we can also outline that in a staff report.
Yes. Okay. I have lost my. Okay. So I think we beat this one up as much as we can. So let's move to the next ad hoc presentation. So I think that's on the list here. Anyone want to go first on that?
So a comment I would make is since January, looking at our agendas, we haven't had the agenda item of ad hoc and liaison reports. So I suggest that we should make sure to add that back as the last business item. Because right now we're on commissioner questions, comments, announcements, or future meetings and agendas.
Thank you. We'll make sure that gets adjusted.
Okay. And that might give us an out to not
Okay.
I say some positive things.
No, I think you say most positive things. It's good. Okay. Okay. Want to move on to the next agenda item?
Yes, so that's commissioner questions, comments, announcements, or future meetings and agendas. I think we've already talked about
Okay,
our
so
future
now I'm really
agenda.
confused. Is there no ad hoc report tonight?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll wait and give mine in June.
We do have an opportunity for commissioner comments if you'd like to thread something in.
No, because this is an important one. We need to remember it because it'll have implications on policy. So let's just leave it.
Great.
Yeah.
And now the next item is adjournment.
I think that's I already practiced that one, so let's go ahead and move on to the adjournment. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.